Uganda seems to be geographically positioned for, for these people to come into our country and to test everything negative that they want to test in our country. So that needs to be stopped from the backyard in the United States before it comes this side. So now that we are in this quagmire and in this danger, we call on the global partners, global citizens to keep condemning this law, to keep putting pressure on our leaders to make sure that they honor the international covenants that they've been signatories to and treat their citizens as human beings, not as collateral damage, the way our country is doing with the LGBTIQ community.
Well, as we've just heard, a few weeks ago, Uganda passed a new law that carries some of the harshest penalties for openly gay people. Life imprisonment for some homosexual acts, and you can go to prison for years for promoting gay rights. President Obama is among the world leaders to attack the law, but it was influenced by a small group of Americans. Channel 4 News has spoken exclusively to one of them, an evangelical pastor from Massachusetts, who's considered to have a direct impact on the law. Inigo Gilmore went to Boston to meet the man who says it's his mission to protect civilization from the homosexual movement. And be warned, the views expressed may offend some of you.
You are never going to stop AIDS until you stop treating homosexual sodomy as a civil right and start treating it as a form of conduct to avoid.
Evangelical minister Scott Lively is an awkward fit on this stage. He's running for governor of Massachusetts, one of America's most liberal states. And he's running on a fiercely anti-gay platform. At this hustings run by a local gay rights group in Boston, his message was widely greeted with derision and ridicule.
Why would we be propping up homosexual relationships instead of encouraging people into healthy, normal families? It's completely backward. How dare you say that homosexuality and pedophilia are equated? Well, they are equated. They are equated.
But it was very different when he took his anti-gay message to Uganda. Here he was at a conference in 2009, attended by Ugandan lawmakers and religious leaders.
The gay movement is an evil institution. The goal of the gay movement is to defeat the marriage-based society and replace it with a culture of sexual promiscuity.
His presentation, part of which was broadcast on Ugandan television, focused on what Lively called the gay movement and its agenda.
This is something that I have invented. This is a scale, it's called the scale of gender normalcy.
He went on to list several categories of gay men.
And I call these, the first category, super machos. These were the Nazis, the ones that helped Hitler come to power at the beginning, the jackbooted thugs. You have what I call monsters. There are serial killers, mass murderers. They're people, they're sociopaths. This is the kind of person that it takes to run a gas chamber, right? Or to do a mass murder. The Rwandan stuff probably involved these guys.
This key conference was filmed by Reverend Kapia Kauma, a Zambian Anglican priest. A week after the conference, Lively gave a separate 5-hour presentation to the Ugandan parliament. And the following week, some MPs said it was time for a new anti-gay law.
Every talking point of Scott Lively was in that bill. Scott Lively is bringing the narrative that there is a movement to recruit young people into homosexuality. That is something which was not there. It becomes now the new rationale for having the new law in Uganda.
Javier.
I met Dr. Lively to ask how he had influenced the law in Uganda.
The legislation that came out, which evolved from the time that you were going there, has brought in very harsh punishments against homosexuals in Uganda.
Well,
Are you happy about that?
I have mixed feelings about the Ugandan law, right? I support the provisions of the law that increase penalties for homosexual pedophilia. I support the clauses in the law that enhance penalties for intentionally spreading AIDS through sodomy, right? I do not support, and never did support, the harsh penalties in terms of long prison sentences. I don't believe in that. I never have. I didn't suggest that to them when they brought it up.
But that's a direct consequence of the hysteria that you helped to create.
So you say.
That's what is white.
Based on propaganda from my adversaries.
It's pretty inflammatory to link Nazis with gay people, isn't it?
Well, if it's true, do we care more
Based
about...
on your thesis. I mean, no one else has come out with this.
Well, it's people don't have a lot of courage in standing up to the gay bullies, but the facts of history are manifest.
Dr. Lively rejected the idea that he had been responsible for stirring up anti-gay hatred in Uganda.
Give me a name. Give me a name of somebody that's
But I
been driven
repeatedly
from their
pushed
home
him to account for his most controversial
Not a
comments,
single person.
such as labelling some gays as monsters and linking gays both to the Nazis and the Rwandan genocide.
You then directly linked it to a neighboring country of Uganda, where they had a genocide, and you said it's probably involved these guys, talking about gays, in Rwanda. You started suggesting the Rwandan
Did you watch
genocide.
the whole...
I'm looking at it now. This is you here now.
Did you watch the whole
I'm watching
segment?
the clips. This is you.
If you watch the whole segment, you find out that when I'm talking about the monsters, I'm saying that's an extremely small number of people.
Yeah, but you're referring to gay people as monsters, as super macho.
Some of them are.
You say, you're saying they're bestial, they're animalistic.
Some of them are.
The president of your country is wholeheartedly against this legislation.
Obama?
He's condemned it. He's condemned it. But you're a citizen of this country, and you're going there to influence what's happening.
I think Mr. Obama may well be a homosexual himself. He's certainly a radical homosexualist, meaning a person, whether homosexual or not, who is 100% invested in the homosexual.
So you think President Obama's a homosexual?
I think he may be. He is lending the weight of his office to a movement that's goal is to overturn the Judeo-Christian sexual ethic and replace it with the gay ethic of sexual anarchy. God bless you. I hope you overcome your problem.
Dr. Lively's opinions are often greeted with derision, even abuse, in liberal America.
And have you sought psychiatric care?
No, I've never needed it.
I would advise that.
Yeah, I know.
Strongly.
So in Massachusetts, his opinions appeared to carry little weight beyond his Mission coffee shop in the small town of Springfield.
Okay, bye now.
Yet this same man was heralded as an important scholar in Uganda who influenced some of the most draconian anti-gay laws in the world. Laws now denounced for inflaming hatred and stirring persecution.
Last year, Republicans in Arizona lined up behind a bill that would have punished teachers and opened them up to lawsuits. The idea was this: if a student was, for example, scared to tell his or her family that they were gay or transgender or thinking about those issues, and the student decided instead to talk with their teacher about it, well, this Arizona law would create an affirmative legal obligation for the teacher, forcing the teacher to call the student's parent and tell. And if the teacher didn't do it, Arizona Republicans said that teacher should lose his or her license, and it should be okay for the teacher to be sued as an individual. During that same session, Republicans also pushed legislation that would have banned books like Maya Angelou's book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, or George Orwell's 1984, or F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. They'd all be banned. Critics say that because of the way that bill was originally crafted, it would have also made it illegal to teach anything at all about homosexuality. You could not say that it exists. What those two bills had in common is that to create those bills, Republicans in Arizona consulted with the same far-right interest group, a group called Family Watch International. It's based in Arizona, but while that group is based in Arizona, they really only dabble in this stuff in the United States. Where they really do most of their work is overseas. This is a right-wing anti-gay group in America, in Arizona, that for years has backed anti-gay legislation in countries like Nigeria, where same-sex relationships are punishable by death, depending on what part of the country you're in. Along the way, this Arizona group has also forged close ties with the virulently anti-gay activists who were enthusiastic supporters in Parliament of Uganda's previous Kill the Gays bill. In March of this year, just weeks ago, this Arizona group was one of the key organizers of a conference in Uganda that hosted lawmakers, hosted elected officials from more than a dozen countries in Africa. At this conference, again, organized by an Arizona conservative group, lawmakers from more than a dozen countries gathered in Uganda and promised that in their home countries, they would push legislation against the sin of homosexuality. Here's the head of Family Watch International meeting with her longtime friend, the First Lady of Uganda, at that conference. The First Lady said that during that most recent meeting, they discussed, in her words, concern about the imposition of harmful practices like homosexuality. American activists taking that message abroad. Well, now Family Watch International's efforts appear to be paying off. Just a few weeks ago, the parliament in Uganda passed what amounts to a new Kill the Gays bill that would impose the death penalty for certain offenses. It calls for life in prison for anybody who has gay sex. It makes it illegal to advocate for the rights of LGBTQ people. Advocacy would carry up to 20 years in prison as its penalty. The White House has already come out hard against this legislation.
Before I turn it over to my NSC colleague here, I want to say one thing at the top. We have grave concerns with the passage of the Anti-Homosexuality Act, AHA, by the Parliament of Uganda yesterday, and increasing violence targeting LGBTQI+ persons. The bill is one of the most extreme anti-LGBTQI+ laws in the world. Human rights are universal. No one should be attacked, imprisoned, or killed simply because of who they are or whom they love.
You may have heard there's a new law in Uganda that punishes people for the crime of being gay. And at one point, this law said they would put gay people to death if you were, I guess, caught being gay. And now they've softened up a bit. Now they'll only send you to life in prison. But the question comes up, where did this law even come about? And a lot of these leaders, these political leaders who are writing these laws in Uganda, are saying they took a lesson from all these Christians back in America. All the evangelical Christians seem so hell-bent against homosexuality that they're just kind of fulfilling what the evangelicals started. So, of course, American evangelicals are now trying to distance themselves, saying, no, we don't want to punish them. We don't want to jail gay people. We definitely don't want them put to death. We just want them cured. We just want them fixed or reconciled with God, as one pastor put it. Which is interesting because now you have these churches and church leaders who have been saying the nastiest, untrue things about gay people for so many years. And now that you have a country that's basically taken all the things they've said very seriously and taken it to the next level, you have these pastors trying to back off. It's like, well, what did you expect would happen when you treat homosexuality like it's some sort of disease? When you say, yeah, it's a sin, like everything's a sin, but that's a special sin. Well, guess what? Someone took you seriously, even though we knew better than that. And now you have to deal with them. It's your job to correct the mistake that you started. So I'm waiting for a lot of evangelical pastors to get up on Sunday and tell their congregation, look, not only were we wrong about the things we said about gay people, there's nothing wrong with homosexuality. We embrace you in this church if you are gay. We're not going to tell you that you need to be fixed or that we will fix you. We will love you as you are, and we're not going to try to change you because we love all people. That's the sort of sermon I would love to see some pastors do, but most evangelical pastors won't do it. They'll keep saying there's something wrong with homosexuality. There's something wrong with you if you are gay or lesbian. But when it comes down to punishment, they're very iffy. They get very nervous about talking about how we should deal with people who are gay. And at some level, I don't really mind it because I think this is their problem and I think they're going to have a problem fixing it. And I think even younger evangelicals know better than to take their pastors seriously when they talk about this stuff. Young Christians know there's really no problem with being gay. They have friends who are gay. They know their pastors are wrong and they're leaving the church in droves. But for these older Christians, I don't know how they're distancing themselves and I don't know why they're surprised because when you denounce something for so long, and this other country takes the step of saying, oh, well, if you think there's something wrong with it, we're going to punish it through the law. What did you really expect?